I remember seeing this photograph a few years back of this mountaintop, like with this big rocky face. And at first I didn't really see it, but right in the middle I noticed on a little sliver of a rock ledge was this big bull tahr standing there. And it had this blonde mane just blowing in the wind. And my immediate thought was, what an amazing animal. And then right after that, I just remember thinking, like, what a crazy place this thing lives in. And so in that moment, I just knew I wanted to go to New Zealand and I wanted to hunt tahr and I wanted to see those mountains. And I guess I've just always been drawn to those extremes, you know, to those really challenging hunts.
Just finished the second leg of the trip for New Zealand, en route to Christchurch to meet up with Abe. Gosh, it's been probably almost 9 years, 10 years since I've actually got to hunt and shoot something myself. We're going for Himalayan tahr. Really getting stoked on this trip. Got a little bit more time here until we head to the next spot. Heyo! Got a lot of stuff. Last minute supplies.
No.
How's it going, Micah?
Micah, how are you, Micah?
We were introduced to the Dooleys just on an email through a friend of a friend, and so we didn't know them at all when we arrived in New Zealand. But they were so cool. They insisted on coming and picking us up at the airport. When they asked us about our travel plans, we didn't give anything really concrete. They insisted that we come back to their batch or their cabin and stay with them there. They ended up letting us borrow gear. They helped us find spots around the island to go visit and even areas to check out for hunting. And then just connecting us with different people, with a taxidermist, with friends around the island that they knew. And while we were waiting on a weather window, they took us duck hunting on the lake there, which is a passion that we both shared together. And getting to know them while we were there in New Zealand just made the whole experience that much richer for us.
I grew up as a doolie within New Zealand. Everyone knows that our family lives and breathes hunting. They decided, hey, why don't we start our own magazine? And that was probably about 12 years ago. And it all kind of went from there. We started NZ Hunter magazine, and that is the highest selling outdoor mag, which, yeah, is really quite unbelievable. We never really had a decent public land hunting TV show, and Dad and I had always talked about it because it was a natural kind of progression from the magazine, and then we just thought, hey, stuff it. So we bought the camera gear. We're really just a couple of hillbillies running around the New Zealand Alps, picked up a channel, and here we are 5 seasons later producing NZ Hunter Adventures, which is the most popular hunting show in New Zealand. Yeah, we're just all about getting out into the public lands, putting a pack on our backs, losing a bit of sweat, and yeah, hunting the awesome animals we have here. And yeah, seems to resonate quite well with the viewers here. It's a bit of, I guess, a New Zealand way of life. The cool thing about what we do is we get to spend 100 days a year up in the hills, whether it's mountaineering, pack rafting, tramping, waterfowling, fly fishing, all of it. It's all just such good stuff, and absolutely love it. So,
what sort of level, what altitude, what line do you reckon?
Well, this is the Southern Alps. This is the Tahr country of New Zealand, and you can see it's all under that pretty atrocious looking weather, and it just doesn't get any better. But then hopefully it'll clear off enough Wednesday. If we go down to here, say by Wednesday lunchtime, you can see here it should have cleared off enough that the helicopter will be able to get in and get you out. You guys don't have that time up your sleeve, so you're just going to have to grab it and make the most of it.
So this week, West Coast is basically out of the question, is what you're saying?
Absolutely out of the question.
All right.
once we started hiking into Tahr country, that's when the experience really started to hit me. Off to a good start for the day. It's a very, very different landscape than anything I've experienced before. It's like rainforest meets high country alpine. It's cool. We glassed this first basin a bit today, kind of midday. But we're gonna head up here to a good looking campsite up on the ridge, and I don't know, we'll either set up our tent or we'll drop all of our stuff. And then there's another basin closer, or farther up closer to the campsite that we can glass. And it only took us a couple hours to start spotting our first tahr. So the first group of tahr we ended up seeing actually had a bull in it. Couldn't make it happen with the bow, but it was really exciting to have that experience with the tahr that early on in the hunt.
The first look you get at them, you see these massive, big, shaggy animals, that huge cape. The terrain they're living in, they're in the most inhospitable, tough, rugged mountains. They're running around vertical ledges, snow, ice. They're just an amazing animal to live in such, rugged country. Their rutting behaviour where they poke out their tongue and they're showing their dominance, chasing off the younger bulls. It's just awesome. You just can't help but get inspired by them, and they really are one of our pinnacle game animals, and ever since my first tahr hunt, I've really just been hooked. We have the best huntable population, one of the only huntable populations in the world. So tahr are really special and definitely one of the top game animals we have here. I don't know what I do with my life, what would drive me without the likes of Tahr and chamois running around, because every fine forecast, every weekend, it's, man, where should we go? Let's get to the hills and try to find a tahr. So the tahr in New Zealand are home to the Southern Alps. You've got this main divide splitting their habitat, and you've got two distinctively different habitats in places they live. On the east coast, you're talking a lot of open country, tussock, braided riverbeds, not much cover. And then you've got the west coast, which is just this massive forest, jungle, huge mountains. It's just so wild. You really have no idea what could be living there. There may be a 14-year-old bull tahr with 15-inch horns that's living in a certain bush valley, living in the scrub there that no one's ever seen or laid eyes on. Westland has so many records for the most rainfall in New Zealand. It's a wet place, it's unpredictable, it's tough getting a good weather spell. You can have heaps of snow. Getting the weather right on the west coast is a pretty tough ask, but when you do crack it, it's just unbelievable. For me, the East Coast, reading old tahr hunting articles and magazines, it was East Coast. It was driving up these braided riverbeds, staying in old huts. So many people have hunted, they've got lots of history, yet they're still producing good bull tahr and they still have fantastic hunting opportunities. And that's what I kind of like, is you're going to places that everyone knows, yet there's still amazing opportunities there. They're easily accessible. I guess that's what I love about the East Coast, is how easy it is to access, that you can actually see and glass with the animal, like a spotter is invaluable. Typically the East Coast is a lot drier, gets less rain. You can sometimes get some better hunting conditions. New Zealand's a hunter's paradise. We have 7 species of deer, we have tahr, we have chamois, and we have an epic range of mountains throughout the country to hunt them in. Yeah, it's an awesome place, but it's quite interesting that these are all introduced game animals. We have no native large mammals anymore. And the first Tahr liberation happened in the Mount Cook area in 1904, near the Hermitage there. 6 animals were gifted from the Duke of Bedford. I think a couple jumped ship on the way, and only 4 made it here. That was in 1904, and that made the first liberation. They've since spread. There were a couple of liberations happened after that, but they've spread and made the entire Tahr population we have here today, from the Landsborough River in the south to the Rakai River in the north, give or take. There's a few wanderers, but that's the main population. And then in 1937, the numbers got too high and they were declared a pest by the government. There was a meat market for Tahr established in the 1970s, and they almost wiped the whole Tahr population out. We used to have the New Zealand Forest Service managing our game animals, and it switched to DOC, or the Department of Conservation, which is what we have today. And they put this Himalayan Tahr control plan in place in 1993, which set a maximum number of 10,000 animals. Obviously that was over 25 years ago, and since then the numbers have hugely increased. Interesting fact is last year we had what we coined Tahrmageddon, where we've had a change of government, a Green government, and they pushed heavily for a massive Tahr cull, wanting to cull somewhere between 25 to 30,000 animals, when they did one aerial survey which said the population could sit somewhere between 17,000 and 50,000. So we support a cull, keeping on top of the nannies, the breeding unit, because we need a healthy population. We lobbied the government, and at the moment they backed down on the original proposal, and they've agreed as it stands to cull 10,000 animals, but rather than culling the bulls as well, they're just culling nannies and juveniles, which we totally support.
When you get up on that mountain and you're looking out over the world, and you can see for miles in every direction, and below you is a game animal that's incredibly challenging to get close to and to kill. There's something about it that just makes zero sense whatsoever. Mountain hunting, like for mountain goats, sheep, tahr, doesn't matter what it is. Those species, they live in such intense terrain that that's already a super challenging hunt. And then for some reason, I have this desire to throw a longbow, a traditional bow, on top of that challenge, try to get within that 20 to 30 yard window in order to be able to shoot at one of those animals. And it just, I don't know, there's something about it, it doesn't make any sense, but I've just been repeatedly drawn to the challenge of that kind of a hunt. When we got picked up by the helicopter, the chopper pilot hops out, looks at the longbow and says, "That's total rubbish." That's kind of the reaction I got from most people in New Zealand is, "You're gonna do what? You're trying to do what?" After being there and seeing those tahr and seeing the environments they live in, yeah, it's challenging, but I also believe it's super doable.
Ooh, that feels good on the hands. They were starting to get cold.
Yeah, if we would have tried that first thing in the morning in the dark. Well, we made it up on the ridge in the Alpine here. We got a little ways to go still, but not far. Maybe another 15 minutes of easy walking.
Yeah.
To get right above them where we were yesterday when we turned around. So we're hoping to be able to look down this morning and at first light pick up some tahr. Hopefully get on them, and if we can get one down, get out of here before it starts snowing. It's beautiful out here. It's a wonderful day to be alive, that's for sure.
Yes.
I got a couple of opportunities to stalk tahr on the West Coast. And the closest one, we were hiking up this ridge and a bull skylines himself just right above us.
The view from here is pretty amazing. We're gonna go just right up here. Look at that. Oh, hey, there's a bull tahr on the ridge right behind us. Right there. That's a bull.
And it was the middle of the rut and the bulls are chasing nannies. And we immediately crouched down and he ended up coming down the ridge to take a look at us.
Looks like a bear.
He popped back up at about 40 yards and I was able to come to half draw, but it was just a little bit too far. And as I started to stand, he took off and went down the hill. So it was like mixed emotions that I came away with. Disappointed that I didn't get to shoot a tahr even though we had close encounters. But at the same time, being close enough to put an arrow on the shelf, it's like that alone is such a feeling of excitement and accomplishment. It just really built my resolve to return with the longbow and figure out how to make it happen someday.
Got a group of tahr spotted over here in a cut, and we're gonna go up the ridge and drop down and get on an opposite little finger ridge. We can glass across and pick them back up again. I don't know, rifle or bow. We'll see what kind of opportunity presents itself and go from there.
We were up early glassing at first light and we spotted this bull with a huge blonde mane. And I remember looking at Micah and just saying like, man, I would shoot that bull with a rifle if I got a chance.
Yep, okay, I got it.
You got him?
Yep. Just moving into that opening again. Coming from the left side into the middle. Yeah, same thing. I was looking way too small.
Looking too
I
small.
was looking at the dots and I'm like, I think that dot is
Yeah.
it. No, and then you see him and it's like, he's way bigger.
Yeah, they're big, especially the bulls, and I think a lot of it is just that hair, man.
Yeah, they like whistle to each other just like ground squirrels or...
Like a pika.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like a pika. In
Yeah,
fact, when it
or
first
like
happened, I was like, are there pika here?
Yeah. Hopefully that big one turns up when we get over there. We'll see.
Coming over the top of a finger ridge, he was bedded down below me. bad it swirled and he spooked out of there. So we retreated and we're making a plan for what to do for the second half of that day. I doubled back to a spot where we could glass that same hillside where we had just busted those tar.
Within 400 yards from where we last saw them. They dove over to the other side, so now we gotta get down there and see if they're coming this way or maybe just going down, so we get in position. For so many years, I've been the one behind the camera, and for this moment, it was the first time in 9 years that I was actually the one behind the gun. Part of me felt like a little bit of pressure because it was a different position than I was used to being in, but 360. I think we can get down to this rock right here, wait for him to come out. Don't get me wrong, I love all the experiences I've gotten to have and capturing other people's hunts in wild places, but I kind of thought a lot of different emotions would be going through my mind, but it really wasn't. My mind cleared. It was quiet. I was just trying to slow down my breathing and focus in on what I needed to do and to take the shot. And hey, what's that one up on the rock? Skyline, what's that?
It's a young, small bull.
Okay.
Should be 268.
Yeah.
So you're holding dead on, right? Outline with his nose.
Yeah, it's basically 0 at 300, so just line with his nose, all right. Ready?
Yep. He's rolling, dude.
That is the first animal that I've taken in, gosh, it's gotta be 9 years since Alaska. That was so cool. I got a tar.
It was interesting because at the shot farther down, a bull popped out and we were watching it and it looked like a pretty good bull. And then it turned around. All of a sudden I could see this huge blonde mane on it. And I told Mike, I was like, that's the same bull from this morning. So I jumped on the rifle and I was thinking, hey, if we gotta pack one tar out, we might as well pack 2 out. So I got on the rifle and I got situated over the pack on that rocky rim rock. And it took me a second to get steady, but I ended up shooting that bull with the rifle as well.
Yeah, you rolled him.
Oh shit.
He dropped.
Oh.
And it was exciting. It was an awesome hunt. It was so cool to be there with Micah in such a beautiful place and have 2 tar down on the hillside. Such a great feeling of success and accomplishment.
We only had less than an hour of light, and we knew that it was gonna take at least that to get to where the tar were. And then it was a matter of trying to find them in this thick brush. So we made the plan to go back to camp that night with the plan to get up in the morning before sunrise, start hiking with headlamps, to have the whole day to try to find our tar. So just as we crested over the ridge at daybreak, I was glassing down the hill and actually spotted my tar right in the bottom of the gully, right where we thought he would be. And that was a huge feeling of relief, just knowing that, okay, we found him, he's there, he's still a long ways away, but we can get to him. Once we got over there to the face, it ended up being way steeper and way more thick than we thought it was gonna be.
I didn't think that we were gonna find my bull. We spent all day looking for it, and I just didn't have an appreciation at the time for how steep and rugged and brushy and cliffy that country was that those tar lived in.
But got him. We got him. Here he is as he lays.
It was so cool to reach down and grab that bull's horns and pull him out of the brush and just connect the dots between that animal and that photograph that I'd seen years before, that tar standing on the cliff, and be like, this is it. And it's a challenging hunt and it's an exciting hunt, and those tar are just such incredible animals. I just knew then and there, like I was getting hooked. Like I was starting to get hooked on this tar hunting thing. Before it was like a curiosity, and like now it was an experience that I wanted to have again and again.
After such a long day of trying to find both of our tar, getting up to mine in the dark, it was surreal. The setting, the thick brush all around, all the work that we had put in just trying to find them that day, it just made everything that much more real when you actually get to feel the horns and to see the character and the incredible hair that's just super long and that mane. An animal that just roams in this terrain with no care in the world. They're so unique, they're so powerful, and to appreciate them right up close was truly amazing. So I think out of all the places that I've wanted to go and experience, New Zealand's always been the top of that list. And just from seeing all of the pictures and videos and movies that were shot there, I mean, it had this really high level of expectation for me going into this trip. And when I actually got this opportunity to go there, it was definitely something that exceeded all of those expectations that I had. I didn't realize what the draw was until I finally went there. And I feel like that's because there's so many different things that can draw someone there, that can appeal to different people. From the hunting we got to do on both sides of the island for Tahr. We got to go to these really popular public places that were incredibly scenic, and going to do exhilarating things like dropping off the edge of a cliff. I mean, there was so many different experiences, and yet there's so much more that you can do there. It gives it a whole nother level of appeal that definitely is gonna keep pulling me back multiple times.
A Tahr hunt in those Southern Alps is pretty much the pinnacle of mountain hunting for a DIY hunter who isn't necessarily going to afford a Marco Polo sheep hunt or a Dall sheep hunt in Alaska or Canada. I mean, Tahr is an incredible experience and has a huge amount of opportunity. And I just hope that that opportunity continues for years to come, you know, so that people, as they learn more about Tahr hunting and the opportunities that are available down in New Zealand, that they can plan those trips and go and experience what New Zealand has to offer. Like, I can't wait to go back next year with my longbow and hunt Tahr again, and I'm planning that hunt right now. And so I hope those Tahr stay on the mountain. I hope that nothing is lost there.